Hello, welcome. My name is Allison. I have a literacy blog called Learning at the Primary Pond that focuses on the primary grades. I'm a literacy specialist in K2, and I just wrapped up an online workshop that is all about teaching guided reading in the primary grades. And so what I wanted to do now was kind of take you through what a lesson could look like, in the workshop. Whether you were there or not, this will still be helpful to you, I hope. But whether you were there or not, in the workshop, I went through each component, but I think it's really helpful to see it all together. I know that I learn best when I am, going into other teachers' classrooms and watching them teach. So even though obviously I can't give you a peek into my classroom on Facebook, hopefully this will give you a little bit better of an idea of how a lesson can flow. I do also want to mention, tomorrow is the TPT sale, and you will get 25% off. There's a special code that you use when you check out. It'll be on the site, but I'm also going to be giving away some TPT gift cards to make the sale even more fun. So let me know you're here in a comment. As I start to teach, ask a question, share your own idea, whatever. I'm going to come back in about an hour and I'm going to choose 3 different commenters, just randomly. I assign numbers and do it that way. I'm going to choose 3 different commenters and I will tag you, and then you can email me to get your TPT gift card. So definitely leave a comment so that you are entered. So now I guess we're going to go ahead and get started. The lesson that I chose for today is first grade. So right now, if you're just starting your year, you might have some kids at a level F. I know that if you're a kindergarten teacher, you're obviously not at that point yet, but this is something that you can work toward. And then if you're a second grade teacher, your lesson might be a little bit more advanced. But I picked first grade guided reading level F as kind of a midpoint. So hopefully you can adapt to, wherever your kids are at. And what you're going to see me do in this lesson, I'm going to kind of alternate between talking to you as if you were my students, and then I'll kind of give a little side note about what I'm doing as a teacher, of course. But what you're going to see me do is you're going to see me go through some fluency items. You'll see me have the kids reread a familiar text, and then I have 2 flashcards. You'll see me introduce the book. You will see me pretend to have the kids read the book, and I'll talk a little bit about what I'm doing as they're reading. And then I'll show you just what I would do for the discussion, teaching a strategy for this group, all of you, my students. I am pretending that you all need to work on breaking apart words and reading them, chunk by chunk and putting them together. So going into this lesson, I know that this is something that I want us to work on. And then I'll show you what I would do for word work. It's going to be very brief, and you'll see that it's super relevant to just what we just read in the text. I know that you can't see the text, but I will try to show you as much as possible. So let me take a drink of water from my giant mug, and then we will dive in. Okay, hopefully my voice is not too bad. It's been a long day of talking. But one more time, too, for the people who are just getting here, welcome, and please do comment, because in an hour, right before I go to bed, I'm going to come back and I'm going to choose 3 commenters just randomly, and I will tag you, and then you can email me to get a TPT gift card for the sale tomorrow or anytime. Okay, so this is my bin of familiar reads. So Kim and Leanne and Anne and Season, my students, you are all coming to my table, and you're sitting down, and I have this bin, it's on the table, and that automatically you go into this, I have little bags of books, you pick out a book that you've read before, you can choose, there's usually a couple different choices that I'll have, and then you just start reading. But let's see, who is here? Leanne, hello Leanne. Leanne's gonna be my star student. And Leanne, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to come sit next to me, and at my real guided reading table, I would have a star that's glued to the table basically, and that's the star seat. So Leanne, come sit with me at the star seat. So all the rest of you boys and girls, you're reading your books, You're working independently because that's what I've taught and modeled at the beginning of the year. And Leanne, last lesson, we ran the book Dinner is Late. So Leanne, I'm going to have you read that to me. So I give it to Leanne. This is the second time she's seeing it. But I want to see how she's doing with this level of text. So I'm going to grab a running record form, and I forgot to bring one or print one. It does not have to have the words of the text on it. You can just, in a pinch, I have taken just like the back of a lesson plan and taken a running record, because you just make check marks if it's read correctly. And then you like write the word that they read incorrectly, or you write the real word, you draw a line over it, and then you write what they said instead. So you can take a running record on anything. I've taken it on like paper scraps before. Anyway, Leanne is my star student, and she's going to read the book to me. So this book is relatively brief. She's going to read the whole book because we have time for that today. I take my running record, then I say, okay, Leanne, tell me what you just read. She does a little retelling. I make, a note or two. And then I say, okay, boys and girls, now we're ready to get into the lesson. So they all put their books back into this bin, and I put it away. This was the fluency items. One last thing for the fluency items. Okay, let's review a couple of sight words we've been working on. Give, you're all gonna read give, would, and that's it. It's not a huge stack. Okay, boys and girls, I am so excited to share the book that I brought for you today. We all saw the solar eclipse, and so I have a book called The Moon. Now, something that readers do before they read, to get ready to read, is they think about the genre of the text. So, boys and girls, what do you think? Is this a fiction book or a nonfiction book? And I might pass them out and have them like look through it, or I might just page through it. It depends like what these kids are like and how much I need their attention. If they're gonna get distracted by the book, or they might start reading, I just have my copy for the intro and I'm showing them things on this. So I've asked you, what did I ask you? Oh, I asked you what's the genre of the text, and then I will also say, how do you know? Okay, well, we think it's gonna be nonfiction. And something else that readers do when they're getting ready to read nonfiction is they think about their background knowledge on the topic. They ask themselves, what do we already know? So boys and girls, what do you know about the moon? So now I'm gonna either have them talk to a partner first, or I'm gonna just let like two kids answer. So I'm gonna take your answers. I'm not gonna, talk much, even though obviously I'm talking to you more now. I'm just gonna kind of take it in, listen to your answers. Okay, now let's get ready to read the text. So that was my intro. It was pretty brief. In this particular book, I did not feel that there were certain vocabulary words or words that the kids were gonna get tripped on for decoding. So I did not pre-teach any words, which often happens. But so now I'm gonna pass out the books. Now what they do is they're whisper reading at their own pace. They're at level F, so they're still at that point where they're needing to read out loud, needing to hear themselves read. So they all have their own copies. They're going at their own pace, and I'm kind of listening in. I'm kind of going from kid to kid. So I kind of want to get a good sense of how they're going. Once I feel like they're up and running and they're all doing pretty well, then what I might do is I might take out, and I would actually have this in my binder. I just separated stuff so I could show you more easily. I'm going to choose a focus kid, and this reading behavior rubric, it's part of my, I have them separate, but they're also part of my guided reading packs. And so these say things like reads, blends, and digraphs correctly, identifies story elements, notices and self-corrects errors. So these are things I'm looking for. So Samantha, you are going to be my focus student today, Samantha. And so yes, I'm going to check in with everyone at the table for sure, kind of listen in. But Samantha, I'm going to see if I can rate her, because there's 1, 2, 3. I'm going to see how is she doing with the vowel sound knowledge. So I have this, and I'm rating her really quickly. It's faster than writing anecdotal notes to use these. It kind of gives you a guide on what you're looking for. Something else that I could do, and I should have done this before, I pass out the books or right after, I could have given you strategy menus. This is something that I would use if probably a little bit later on in the year when I've already taught you multiple strategies. If this were later on in the year, I probably would have passed the book out with this, and so then you could refer to it and, you know, reminded yourself of different strategies you can use while you're reading. But anyway, so you're all reading the text, almost finished. If one of you finishes early, I'll give you a sticky note, and I'll say, okay, find a word that was new to you, or write a question that you want to ask the group on it, just something very quick that I can give you. I'll have a pencil handy, I'll give it to you, just to keep you occupied until we all finish. All right, so you all have read the book, we're all finished. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna have the post-reading discussion, and we're gonna talk about the content of the book, right? I wanna drive home the point that the purpose of reading is to understand, right? The focus, what I was asking you about at the beginning of the lesson, was what genre is this? You know, what do you already know about this topic? So my post-reading discussion is going to continue with that theme, and we're going to talk about genre and also the perspective of the author, the author's role in writing this book, who coincidentally is me. But so I'm going to ask you, okay, so you said, boys and girls, that this was going to be a nonfiction book, and we know that authors write nonfiction books to teach us information, is hopefully what you would say. And so then I would say, well, okay, so what did the author teach us? So now what I do is I try to make it very student directed. I could choose a student leader to call on other kids. I could call on them, but just listen. If a child says something that is incorrect, then I try to get the other kids to correct them. I don't necessarily correct it right away. I don't want them relying on me. I also require that when kids give me an answer that they turn to the page and they show us, okay, on page 5, they're saying that the author taught us the moon is dusty. Well, fine, how do you know? Well, on this page it says the moon is dusty, and there's a picture of the dusty moon also. So the second question that I've prepared is I'm going to ask them, do you think, boys and girls, that the author made this book interesting to read? Was this book interesting to read for you? Why or why not? And right here, I'm not looking for answers like, well, yeah, I like the moon, whatever. What I'm looking for is for them to take the perspective of the author. I want them to think almost as writers, and ask themselves, well, what strategies did the author use? Well, the author, the illustrator, the photographer, they included different photos. And they asked the reader questions, like at the end of the book, would you like to go to the moon someday? So this is something that at level F, they're not going to be real proficient in, but I'm kind of introducing the idea that, not only do we want to think as readers, we also want to learn to take the author's perspective and think about their role in creating this book. So those are my 2 questions. Again, I asked, what did the author teach us, which is basically just retelling. I'm just framing it, again, around the genre idea. And then, do you think the author made it interesting? Why or why not? So then I also said at the beginning that going into this lesson, I knew that this group needed work with breaking up words. So what I would do then is we would talk about the strategy. And what I would say is, I would still have them with their books. I would say, boys and girls, can you turn to the page 3? Put your finger under the word planet. Okay, read the word planet. If I were reading this book and I got to this word and I wasn't sure what it was, something I could do is break up. What was that? Something I could do is break up the word into its parts, read each part, and then read the whole word. So let me show you what this would look like with magnetic letters. I might have them tell me the letters just to keep them engaged at this point. So I already told you this word is planet, but again, we're imagining that we don't know how to read this word. If I'm just looking at this word, I do actually see one chunk. The chunk I see is plan. So I can read plan-et. Now I need to say it faster and put it together. Planet, planet. So in my mind, when I read planet in this book, I broke it up into the 2 parts. I said them separately, and then I put them together. And this is a strategy that you can use when you are reading also. I might have a little visual to go along with this. I might just put it up there. I might not go over it quite yet because I'm kind of introducing this strategy. We'll come back to it. I just want them to, associate what I am teaching with this visual, which I'll use later. So then, boys and girls, I would like you to turn to page 4. Turn to page 4. Now I want you to put your finger under the word always. Let's read always. Okay. Then I would have one of these little containers. These are lunch meat containers that I was hoarding for a long time, and I washed them out. I have the letters to make always in something like this or a little plastic baggie, and I have one for each of you boys and girls. So now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to make the word always. So my intention here is not for them to be like learning how to make the word always, because at level F, that's not necessarily something that they might be able to do. I want them to copy it from the book to see the connection, because we're always bringing it back to the text. So they all have letters for always, and I'll say, okay, make always, and I would be making it up here. But they would also be making it on their own, and also give it to them to use with a partner. If you don't have time to do this, use the app called Word Wizard on the iPad. That's a good one. All right. Okay, so boys and girls, now you made the word always. Now we're going to practice breaking it up into chunks. What chunks do you see in this word? So we might do, they might see ways. We could break it up into all ways. I'd have them suggest. I'd have them physically move the parts of the word. I'd have them separate them, on the table or whatever. And then I'd have them practice reading all ways, always, and then physically pushing the letters back together. Another extension activity I might do if we have another just couple of seconds, I might say, okay, turn to, where is it? There's a compound word in here somewhere. Oh yeah, turn to page 6. This has the word daytime. I would have them find the word daytime, and then I'd ask them, okay, how would you break this up? So again, we did something real quick with magnetic letters, but we're bringing it back to the text. Still working on that strategy of breaking up the word into its parts. I know it's kind of like long-winded when you're listening to me talk about it, but this happens fast. I model it, maybe I put up this strategy, I give it to them, it's in this little container, it's all ready for them to go. They do it, they read it, maybe we look at one in the book, and then that's it. For the word work in my guided reading lessons, it always is very fast-paced. I have to be ready to go because time is just brief. So going back to our list here, we did the fluency items, the book intro, reading, discussion, and strategy, word work. Okay, so now we're going to wrap up the lesson. Okay, boys and girls, our lesson is over. What I want you to remember is this strategy of breaking up words into their chunks. Anytime you are reading, if you see a word and you're not sure what it is, try looking for different parts, break it up, and then put them back together. Good job. So then we're done. So that's basically my lesson. I know it's like a little bit weird and awkward because I don't have real kids in front of me, but I hope that this did give you a sense of the flow, more so than me just describing it. Now you kind of see the different things that I use. This is from Learning Resources on Amazon. I can put the link in a comment if anybody's interested. I'm trying to think. All this other stuff that I was showing you, that's from my guided reading resources. In the actual post itself, I did put a link to those guided reading resources that you can check out. Tomorrow, they will be on sale. They're going to be 25% off on TPT. There's going to be a code on the site. Look for the code, put that in. They're already going to be 20% off from my store, and then TPT does like 5% on top of that. So definitely use that code. If you have commented, I will be coming back. It's going to be like 40 minutes right before I go to bed. I will pick 3 commenters and I will just tag you and let you know that you want a gift card. So fingers crossed for you. You can email me and I'll send you your code. And I think that is it. So now I'm going to try to answer a couple of questions. I'm losing my voice a little bit, but let me see what I can pick up from the comments. Okay. Let's see. Deandra says, do you ever give students their own whiteboard with magnetic letters? Yes, I haven't always had magnetic whiteboards. So sometimes yes, if I have them, sometimes no. Okay. Let's see. If you have a question I missed it, just retype it. That's totally fine. I'm just scrolling. It's hard to find everybody's. Okay, so Terry says, can you tell how much time you spend on each of the 5 components? So I actually wanted to bring my timer to show you that I do use a timer for myself. I moved recently and I cannot find it for the life of me. It's somewhere in the boxes. I'll find it eventually. I do use a timer to stay on track. Let me just write. So fluency items is just this is minutes, 3 to 5. The book intro is 1 to 2 minutes. Reading is gonna be between 3 and 10 minutes, and such a big range is because if you're working with the little friends who are reading level A, very simple, they get through those texts very fast. If you're working with the older readers who are reading more complex texts, it might be 10 minutes that you're spending on reading. This is the most important part of the lesson. This is why you're here. So if possible, that should take up the most time. The discussion and strategy, that kind of varies. I would say another maybe 3 to 5 minutes. And then all of this, some days some parts are longer and some days some parts are shorter. Sometimes that's intentional. Sometimes that's totally accidental. And then the word work, I'm gonna put a big old question mark here because to be honest, it's just whatever time I have left. Like today, this particular lesson, that word work would only have been 2 minutes because like you saw, I had everything ready to go. I knew exactly what words I wanted to, show the kids, and then I had the magnetic letters. It does take longer if you do something on the fly. So let's say I noticed that, there was an onset and rhyme issue. You guys weren't breaking up the first sound and the rest of the word. And I knew forget what my plans are. We need to work on this. Then it might take a little longer. That might be when you want to use something like the Word Wizard app. If you have the iPads ready to go, the kids can, you can just say a word or use something from the text, and that prevents you from having to have the letters ready if you need to do something on the fly. Maureen missed some of it. I'm so sorry. The video should save, fingers crossed. I know, I feel like on my end it's splitting up a little bit and the light looks funny, but hopefully hopefully this worked for most of it. Let's see. Season says, how often do you do a running record on each student? So in that example, who was I doing it on? Leanne or Susan or somebody? My star student, so that was one guided reading group that you just saw. So I took a running record on one student. So in a day, I'm typically seeing 3 groups and I'm doing, therefore, 3 running records. In the whole class, that means that, let's see, so probably every about 2 weeks, I'm getting a running record on all of the kids. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. This is an ideal situation where no one is whacking each other or anything during summers, and I don't need to intervene, obviously. So sometimes it does take a little bit longer than 2 weeks to get through all of my kids. I would say 3 weeks tops is usually where I'm at. Let's see. Good. Jennifer, how do you make sure they have all the correct letters? I do that beforehand. I choose, in this case, it was, I knew what I wanted to teach them. I knew the strategy. I picked a word from the book. I prepared it beforehand. So that's how I knew that they would have the correct letters. Otherwise, it can take forever. All right, so I'm losing my voice. I'm gonna wrap things up. I can come back and answer your questions if I miss them. That'll be probably easier for me to find them all. Again, if you're watching, please make sure that you have left a comment so that you can be entered in the giveaway. I'm gonna come back in 35 minutes and pick 3 winners. I will tag you, so make sure to check back. And then you can email me to get your TPT gift code if you are a winner. Again, all of the stuff that you are seeing here, all this, the lesson plan. I had a lesson plan that I wasn't showing you, but that was there too. I had the strategy menus. All of this is from my guided reading packs. The link is in the profile. That and everything else in my store will be 25% off tomorrow. Tomorrow is Tuesday, August 22nd. Look for that code on TPT. And I will see you back here in 35 minutes. Fingers crossed that you are a winner. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I hope this was helpful.